Hello, I'm François from Shakmat, and in this video we will demonstrate a brand new module, the Harlequin's context, which is the modulation preset programmer. The Harlequin's context allows to create on 4 channels scenes of modulation, such as LFO, random, envelopes, and some other tricks. To fully understand how the module works, let's stick first to the preset programmer part. A preset programmer is like an analog memory, such as the pressure point from Make Noise, for example. The analog memory modules allows to store and recall fixed offset into scenes. Let's have an example and patch our Harlequin's context into a braid. So first, let's grab the output of the braid. Let's send the output of the braid into a Gemini to have a control on volume, and then patch into a zero scope. Let's now take the 4 outputs of the Harlequin's context into the 4 CV input of the braid. So as you can see, the Harlequin's context does not affect the braids at all. It seems like there is no variation in its output, because actually each potentiometer is now locked. You have to pass by the previously stored value of the scene, which is actually now 0 volt, 0 output, so potentiometer fully counterclockwise. So braid is in meta mode, so channel B is controlling the algorithm. Again, unlock the pot and pass by the previously stored value. Yeah, so let's say we like those settings. We want to keep this preset. So press store and then press the button of the scene you want to store. So scene number 1. So now to switch to another scene, simply press another scene button. So there are 16 scenes which are grouped into 4 acts. Scene 1, 2, 3, 4 are in the first act. Act 1 is shown by the 7-segment display. And let's go to the second act by using the act button. And we have scene 5, 6, 7, 8. Act 3 is scenes 9, 10, 11, 12. And act number 4 is scenes 13, 14, 15 and 16. So let's go back to act number 1, where we created a preset earlier, and let's go to scene number 2 and create a new preset. Okay, I like this preset, just store. So we have scene number 1, scene number 2. Let's do a third preset, unlock the potentiometers. And store. You can also store on another scene. So to make a copy on scene number 4. You can even store on another scene from another act. Simply change the act, press the scene, and we are now on scene number 5. Let's go back to act number 1 to have scene 1, 2, 3 and 4. You can also store the current scene on the 16th scene. Simply press the store button and then press buttons 1 and 4 at the same time. So it's the same scene now on the all 16 scenes. Let's now check the clear function, which causes the scene to go back to 4 offsets of 0 volt. Press the clear button and then press the scene you want to clear. As with the store, you can also clear the 16 scenes at one time. So we have 16 scenes of 4 offsets at 0 volt. Let's have a look now to the AutoStore function, which allows to automatically unlock and store the value of the potentiometer into the memory. So as you saw, I press store and I turn the potentiometer. We'll go back to this feature later. In association with sequencing, it can do some really cool tricks. Let's now have a look to the roles. Until now we considered each channel as a fixed offset, but actually each channel can shapeshift into different modulation signals. In order to choose a modulation type of a channel, just press Function and Role. So as you can see, the first channel LED is now blinking, meaning we are editing this first channel, and the 7 segments display is showing the role type, the kind of modulation the first channel is now delivering. So there are 15 different roles, grouped in 5 categories: offsets, LFOs, random, envelopes, and 2 special modes, which are the serial modes. So first role is 0 for a positive offset from 0 to 5 volt, B for bipolar offset from minus to plus 5 volt, and I for inverted offset, it's a negative offset, minus 5 volt to 0 volt. Then you have 5 different waveforms of LFO: ramp up, ramp down, triangle, sine, and square. 2 different random algorithms, a classic sample and hold, and a fluid slewed random. So now you have 3 different envelope algorithms. First is a symmetric trapezoidal envelope, which shares the same attack and release time. Envelopes are gated by the scenes button or by the gate input. Second envelope is a release envelope with a null attack time. And third envelope is an attack-only envelope. The 2 last roles, serial and level, are the serial roles, which are pretty special because they're processing the signal coming from the precedent channel. Deviate acts as an offset added to the precedent channel. Level acts as an attenuator on the precedent channel signal. So let's, for example, choose a sine LFO on the first channel, press the Store button in order to edit the second channel, and choose the level role. You have on channel B a copy of what's happening on channel A, but with a setting on the amplitude. Let's now try deviate, which will offset and clips the signal coming from the precedent channel. So let's now have a look to the CV and gate inputs of the Harlequin's context. So those 2 inputs have many functions defined by what we call the set. We will explain a bit later. But while working with set number 0, the default set, the CV input addresses the scenes by CV with a unipolar CV from 0 to 5 volt. As the gate input, gates the envelopes, resets the LFO, and resets the random. So let's have a look first to the CV input, and let's control the scene by CV with another Harlequin's fixed offset output. So now we have a 0 to 5 volt voltage at the input of the Harlequin. And now you have to set the range, the number of scenes you want to address on a 0 to plus 5 volt scale. So in order to edit the range, just press the function and range buttons. So let's say, for example, we want to address 4 scenes. And let's now, for example, address all the scenes, the 16 scenes. So let's now have a look to the gate input. And let's create a scene with envelopes and LFOs. An envelope here, an LFO here, and let's say a sample and all for this one. So let's grab the gate output from a 4-bricks rook. And as you can see, I'm now gating the envelopes and resetting LFOs and randoms with a gate coming from the 4 bricks rook. Let's now talk about the sets. The sets define the way the CV and gate inputs interact with the module. The sets also activate some features, such as the morphing, clocking the LFO, or resetting the sequencer, for example. There are 14 sets, 2 basic sets, 8 expert sets, and 4 gesture sets. You can find all the sets on the cheat sheet delivered with the module. We really advise to stick first with a basic set and to go to expert and gesture sets when you fully understand all the features of the module. So right now, and by default, the module is in the basic set number 0, which is like the really basic set. The module is working now as we described until now. CV input address the scene, and the gate input fires the envelopes and reset LFO and randoms. Let's now jump to the set number 1, which is the morphing set, basic morphing set. So we use a shortcut function and set buttons, and now we go to the set number 1. Now, as we did earlier, we have to define a range of scene, pressing the function and range button and editing the number of scenes we want to address by CV. Let's now plug the gyroscope to see what we are doing. So let's morph the 2 first scenes together. First scene is a pretty fast saw, as the second scene is a slower square. We're still using a positive 0 to 5 volt offset into the CV input. Fast saw towards the slower square. So as you can see, we're not only morphing the waveform, but also the rate. So again, pretty fast saw to slower square. So I prepared the 4 first scenes on the first channel. So we have the saw, the square, then a random, and finally a sine. We have now to change the range to 4 scenes. So as you can see, we now change from the saw to a square. Now we're reaching scene number 3. We have some random in it. Full random. It's giving them some smooth, and we're seeing the sine signal coming into the random. We can also do the morphing of 5 scenes. The first channel, 5th scene, is a fixed offset at 0 volt. We consider a fixed offset as a null frequency. So we have the saw, the square, random, the sine, and it's slowing down and morphing into a null fixed offset. And so as you can see, with basic waveforms and morphing, you can really easily create some very peculiar modulation signals. So as I said earlier, we have actually 14 different sets. So we have now 8 expert sets, which just change the way the gate input will work and if the morphing is activated or not. And then you have the gesture sets. The gesture sets adds new features such as clocking the LFO or adding some more features on the sequencer. So about the sequencer, let's now have a look to the set number 2. Set number 2 activates the sequencing option on the gate input, meaning the gate input is now clocking the scenes, meaning each time we're receiving a trigger, the module will go to the next scene. So let's jump to set number 2 and use a clock upon as a clock source to sequence the Harlequin's context. As you can see, envelopes, LFO, and randoms are now triggered by the gate input, but you can change the behavior of the module for each type of modulation using another expert set from 2 to 9. Let's now show another example using the sequencer. We just cleared everything and go to 16 scenes range. So as we said earlier, there is an auto-store function. In association with the sequencing, you can simply press the store function and turn the knob, and as you can see, you have a stepped knob recorder. This example is working with offsets, but you can also use any other role such as LFO or envelopes in association with this feature. So the Harlequin's context has an internal memory of 16 slots, each containing the 16 scenes, the range, and the sets used in this slot. In order to save a slot, press Function and Save, and then you choose the slot from 1 to 16 in hexadecimal, so 16 is G, and for example we choose slot number 2. By default, the module is starting on slot number 1. And in order to load a previously saved slot, press Function and Load, and choose the slot you want to load. For example, slot number 3, which should be empty. And we can also reload slot number 2, we just saved earlier. There is also another R slot to load, which is actually a random slot. So a random slot creates 16 scenes with random roles and random values. And we have now a totally random slot. The Harlequin's context also handles select bus messages. In order to activate the select bus functions, press Function and Select bus. There are 3 modes: off, receiver, and transmitter. As a receiver, the Harlequin's context understands load and store messages. Can be controlled, for example, with a macro machine storage strip. As a transmitter, the Harlequin's context generates store and load messages on the select bus. Therefore, you can control one Harlequin's context with the other. So first one will be a transmitter, and let's put the second one in receive mode. And as you can see, I can now drive one Harlequin's with the other one. As I said earlier, both modules also handles store messages, so I can store on the first Harlequin, and the other one will understand the message. In order to clear all the non-volatile memory to do a factory reset, press the Clear and Act buttons at startup. The module is now displaying a F for factory reset. If you want to confirm your choice and do the factory reset, just press Star. And the module will simply clear the whole non-volatile memory. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out our YouTube channel for more manuals, tips, tricks, and patch IDs with the Shakmat modules.